So 2 days ago I woke up with this massive pain on my neck and shoulder on the right side, and I'm actually not sure how it happened. I do tend to get a lot of tension accumulated on my shoulders and neck to the point where it's hard when you touch. That's really where I accumulate all of my stress and tension, especially on days where I'm feeling anxious or I don't get a good night's sleep. There are times of the day where it kind of doesn't hurt that much, or maybe I just get used to it and don't really pay attention to it. But there are times where it hurts a lot. It has actually started to spread and slowly becoming a migraine, which is something that sadly I tend to get. It's pretty annoying. I just want this to go away. So after lunch I kind of just took a painkiller, and now I'm gonna make some ginger and lemon tea. And if I push myself to do other things, I know that is just gonna get worse. And I really don't want that, because migraines sometimes tend to last more than a day. Yeah, I'm just gonna lie down for a while and see how the situation evolves or not. I don't know. Now it's 5 p.m. It's quite dark outside already. I am feeling so much better now, thankfully. The pain stopped entirely, which is great, and it means that the painkiller worked. When I touched the area, it still hurts a little bit, but at least I now can function a little bit. Anyway, I'm actually feeling hungry right now, so I think I'm gonna bake some healthish cookies, and let's just hope that I don't burn them this time. I need to clean this first. Good.
It looks really nice. Thanks.
Well, it didn't last long. I spent the whole morning updating my CV and sending a couple of job applications. And now it's almost 1 p.m. and time just flew by. I'm gonna make lunch. I also have to go to the supermarket today, and I also want to change out of this pajama. So I took a shower and made this delicious curry with tofu and broccoli. It turned out a little bit liquid, but it's delicious. I'm gonna eat this now. I was looking a little bit weird, so I decided to put a little makeup on. So I really wanted to talk about some of my favorites of 2020. I really like these types of videos from other creators. I always like to hear other people's recommendations, things like podcasts, TV series, movies, music, whatever. And so I really wanted to talk about the things that got me through lockdown in 2020. Because as we move on to 2021, we are still in lockdown, at least in Germany we are. And so yeah, I basically made a list of things that kept me company over this weird year. Some of these things came out in 2020, but some of the things that I'm gonna mention they are not technically from 2020. Also, it's really sad how some countries really undervalue the importance of art in a society and how artists have been really struggling, even though art and media consumption was one of the things that people relied on over this period. Anyway, let's begin. Here comes the sun. Okay, bye. Nice to see you. Let's start with music. Why not? There were a lot of interesting albums that came out this year, but there's also a lot of bands that I listen to on a regular basis that aren't really new. The Beach Boys, Surf's Up, the Beatles, Abbey Road. I also listen to a lot of Harry Nilsson's Aerial Ballet, and there's always other artists and bands that I always turn to, like Paul McCartney's solo albums, Radiohead, Neil Young, Fleetwood Mac, but I'm not gonna focus on any of those. I'm just gonna talk about the new albums that came out this year that I really enjoy. So the first album that I want to talk about is The Slow Rush by Tame Impala, and it has been a very interesting thing to see their musical evolution throughout the years. It seems like every time a new Tame Impala album comes out, Kevin's lyrics always relate with me and where I'm at in life, which is a weird but also awesome thing. I really love when that happens because it really helps me process my feelings and emotions. Honestly, when The Slow Rush first came out, I wasn't really into it the first time I heard it, but I really got into it when the Tiny Desk concert came out, and that's when I actually started to hear it on a regular basis and started to really pay attention to everything that is going on in the album. And it's a really great album overall. Like the others before it is just completely different from anything that they have done before. The current song that I'm obsessing with is On Track, which is I think if it's not the last of the album, probably the second to last. The next album that I want to talk about is Fiona Apple's Fetch the Bolt Cutters. Blah. This album, wow. Just wow. I have been a Fiona Apple fan ever since I don't know, ever since I can remember, because my father is also a very big fan of hers. Her lyrics are beyond this world. She's just an amazing poet, and again, I usually relate so much to it. I don't know, this album is just really, really good. Usually her albums rely a lot on piano because that's her main instrument, and this one relies a lot of percussion. The track that I'm obsessing with lately is Under the Table. The next album is Harry Styles' Fine Line. I wasn't really a fan of One Direction. I just didn't relate to it, but when Harry Styles went solo and released his first album, I actually really enjoyed it. Kind of reminded me of Beck's Sea Change, which is this acoustic album that has kind of a melancholic feeling to it. And so when Fine Line came out, I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I was curious. And so I started listening to it and got really addicted to it. Cherry is such a beautiful song. I think that song and Fine Line, the last one in the album, are my favorite songs. I am editing this video and I actually forgot to mention one of my favorite albums of 2020 in this video, which was Mac Miller's Circles. Seriously, I don't know how I forgot about it, but I really love that album. It's amazing, and it's also quite sad. So let's continue. The final 2020 album that I'm gonna talk about is Paul McCartney 3. I haven't talked about it before in here, but I am a massive Beatles fan. I grew up listening to their music and they have been my companions, and I'm also a massive Paul McCartney fan. The man is kind of a genius. He's 78 years old, has like this massive career of success, and he still makes new music every single time. Wow, just wow. It just blows my mind. And like Paul McCartney 1 and 2, Paul McCartney 3 is all done by himself alone. So every instrument on the album is played by him. He wrote every single little piece. So it's kind of like a one-man show kind of album. This album just came out at the end of December, so I haven't been listening to it for a long time, but the track that I'm currently obsessing with is Deep Deep Feeling. I just love how he tells stories through music, and yeah, that's that. The next category is books, and this is gonna be a very short one. I haven't read that much this past year. One of the books that I really enjoyed reading was Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I'm not gonna talk about it really because I think that everyone is talking about it. It's a great book. You will either love it or hate it. I read it like in less than 24 hours, and then I watched the TV series, which was a very good adaptation. To resume it very shortly, is about a millennial couple that has communication issues. Of course, it's more than that, but that's like my quick log line. The next book that I read that I really enjoyed was Why We Sleep. I actually talked about this book before in one of my previous videos, so I'm also not gonna go too much into it. This book was written by Matthew Walker, and he's a neuroscientist that has been studying the science of sleep for a very long time. It basically talks about the importance of sleep, what happens to your brain when you're sleeping, the implications of sleep deprivation. It's highly interesting. Sometimes it's a bit scary, to be honest. And even though it's a science book, it's actually very easy to read. So yeah, if you are interested in science, in brains, or learning something new, this is a great book. Next category that I'm gonna talk about is movies. And honestly, as a former film student, I'm actually a little bit ashamed that I haven't been watching a lot of movies, recent ones at least. I haven't been much into movies lately. I actually rewatched the Harry Potter series like 3 times. I'm always rewatching a bunch of stuff. The movies I'm gonna talk about are actually from 2019. They were at the Academy Awards in 2020. First one is Parasite. The first one was Parasite, which is a South Korean movie. It's about social class differences in South Korea. There's this family that is very rich, and there's this other family that is very poor. And basically, some family members from this very poor family managed to start working for this very rich family. It's a great movie, and I really enjoyed watching it. The next movie that I want to talk about is Little Women, and I think that everyone has watched this movie. Parasite too, actually, but Little Women is just one of those very warm movies. Even though it has some sadness to it, it's one of those feel-good kind of movies. Anyway, let's move on to the new category, which is TV series. I watched a lot of TV series this year, and I want to talk about some of them. The first one being Sex Education. The second season came out in the beginning of 2020, if I'm not mistaken. I only watched the whole thing this past year, and you know, I just love British humor, basically. It's of course about sexuality and human relationships. I think it's such an important series to exist because it deals with this very taboo topic in this very informative and non-judgmental kind of way. It's also very diverse because it deals with a lot of topics, with a lot of different sexualities and different people. Okay, my battery died and I kind of forgot where I was. Anyway, let's talk about Westworld. Westworld was a TV series that came out 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. When it first came out, I didn't really start watching it right away because I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it. I like sci-fi, but I'm not really that much into it. But when quarantine happened, I kind of thought, you know what? Let's just watch this and see what it's all about, and got kind of addicted and watched the whole 3 seasons. The third season came out this past year, so it was quite a good timing. I personally didn't enjoy second season that much, but the first one is like absolutely mind-blowing, and the third one is also very, very good. So basically, Westworld is sort of like this amusement park, and so people go there to have adventures along with some very realistic and highly intelligent sort of robots, AIs, and some people go there to have fun, others a lot of weird stuff happens. It's amazingly written and it has a pretty amazing cast. The next series that I want to talk about is Pose, and again, this actually came out before 2020. This is basically set in New York during the 80s, and it is about the African American and Latin LGBTQ plus community and their struggles over that time. It's also about the drag ball culture scene. These were basically people that were abandoned by their families because of who they are. They all became each other's family. Some of them started to live together in houses, and all of these houses and their house mothers would compete each week by dressing up according to a theme, basically. Has an amazing cast. It stars Billy Porter, which is how I came to know about this series. It's really amazing, and I'm very glad that I found it. Yeah, the next thing that I'm gonna talk about is YouTube creators. This year, I think a lot of people consumed a lot of YouTube, and I actually found some pretty good creators this year that I didn't know of. The first one that I found, which I have been religiously following, is Isabel Page. She's currently living in a tiny house in the mountains in the United States. She's living in a tiny house that she built herself and is on this journey to become self-sufficient. So I'm basically living one of my dreams through her videos. The next YouTube creator I found this year was the Artisan Geek. I basically found her because I was looking for some book recommendations, and then her channel popped up on my suggestions. And I'm very glad that it did, because she has a very diverse taste in books, which is quite refreshing, because it feels like sometimes you see a lot of the same kind of recommendations. She even recommends comic books, graphic novels, manga, and also besides that, I really like the way she talks. The next channel that I want to talk about is Damon Dominic. I just wish I was able to do vlogs as relaxed as he is able to. His vlogs are just so funny and beautifully done, and I'm very glad that I found his channel. Hi again. So I accidentally forgot to mention one of my favorite discoveries of 2020 on YouTube, which is Lena Norms. She just makes amazing video essays about life and adulting and books, and so yeah, I'm very sorry that I forgot about her while I was shooting this video, so yeah. Let's continue. Final category is podcasts. So the only two that I listen to on a regular basis are Armchair Expert by Dax Shepard and Monica Padman. This is my absolute favorite podcast ever. They have such interesting guests, and I really like Dax's interview style. I think he puts his guests on a very comfortable place, and so they always end up being very vulnerable, kind of have very interesting conversations with each other about life and what it means to be a human being. He does interview a lot of actors because he himself is an actor, so he kind of interviews a lot of his friends and people that he knows from the business, but he also interviews a lot of scientists and doctors and writers, musicians, so it's actually very diverse and not only actors. The next podcast that I want to talk about is Philosophize This, which is a philosophy podcast. I really enjoyed to learn more about philosophy because sadly I didn't get to learn that much when I was in high school. It goes through all history of philosophy and explains it in a very non-complicated way. So yeah, those were my 2020 favorites. I hope you enjoyed some of these recommendations, and let's move on with the vlog. So I went to the supermarket and it was a complete waste of my time. Went there to buy vegetables and they didn't have any. Which was very weird. The only thing that they had in stock was fruit. I did buy some chips, which I am already snacking on because I'm starving, and some wine, which I already poured myself a glass of, so chips and wine. I also got the last zucchini in the supermarket, so I think I'm gonna prepare some kind of ratatouille. I have some leftover aubergine, and I also have a few cherry tomatoes that really need to be eaten. Also, we broke all of our wine glasses, so cheers!